Kevin Mitchell rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The soft blue glow illuminated his small office in the Earth Diplomatic Court headquarters in Geneva. Countless historical records floated before him, each one a piece of humanity's long and complex military history. "You're still here." Laura Bennett's voice came from the doorway. She held 2 cups of coffee, and the aroma filled the room. "It's almost midnight." Kevin accepted the coffee gratefully. "The council meeting is in 3 weeks. We need something impressive for our presentation." He gestured at the floating documents. "These aliens have never seen anything like our military history." Laura pulled up a chair and sat beside him. Her brown hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, showing she had been working late too. "What have you found?" "Look at this," Kevin said, pulling up a series of battle simulations. Most alien species in the Council evolved past warfare early in their development. They had maybe a few hundred years of conflict before achieving peace. Humans, we've had thousands of years of continuous military evolution. The holographic display shifted to show ancient battles, Roman legions, Mongolian horse archers, medieval knights, and modern warfare. Laura watched with growing interest as each image flowed into the next. "The thing is," Kevin continued, "we're not just good at fighting. We're good at learning from our fights. Every battle, every war, taught us something new. We adapted, changed tactics, invented new strategies." Laura leaned forward, her eyes widening as she noticed patterns in the data. "Wait, bring up that file about the Battle of Cannae again." She pointed to a specific document. "Now compare it with the space battle simulations we've been running." Kevin did as she asked. The ancient battle formation appeared alongside modern space combat projections. The similarities were striking. "See that?" Laura's voice grew excited. "The basic principles of flanking maneuvers haven't changed in over 2,000 years. We've just adapted them for 3-dimensional space." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent news alert. The holographic display automatically switched to show breaking news from the Centauri sector. A grim-faced reporter appeared. "Breaking news from the outer colonies. The Vorkath Empire has attacked and conquered their 3rd peaceful civilization this year. The Council of Systems has called for an emergency session." Kevin and Laura exchanged worried looks. The Vorkath were the biggest threat to galactic peace in centuries. They were aggressive, technologically advanced, and seemed unstoppable. Their latest victory had been against a species known for their advanced shield technology. "Look at how they fight," Laura said, analyzing the footage. "The Vorkath used the same tactics every time. Overwhelming force, head-on attacks, no adaptation." Kevin stood up and began pacing. "That's it. That's our angle." He turned to Laura, his eyes bright with realization. "The Council needs us not just because we're strong, but because we understand warfare in a way these other species don't." He quickly pulled up more historical records. The Vorkath fight like the Persian Empire against Greece, relying on numbers and brute force. But remember what happened at Thermopylae and Salamis. Laura nodded, catching on. Superior tactics and adaptability beat raw power. They spent the next few hours compiling data, gathering battle records, and preparing their presentation. The office grew quiet except for the soft hum of holographic displays and the occasional sip of coffee. Around 3 a.m., Kevin sat back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. "This could work. We're not just applying for council membership anymore. We're offering them something they desperately need: the art of warfare." Laura looked concerned. "Some council members might see this as a threat. Our history of warfare might scare them." "Maybe," Kevin agreed. "But with the Vorkath expanding, they need new solutions. We can show them that understanding warfare doesn't make you warlike. It helps you protect peace." They worked through the night, organizing thousands of years of human military history into a compelling presentation. They included everything from ancient Chinese military treatises to modern space combat doctrines. As dawn broke over Geneva, they finally had their presentation ready. Kevin saved the final file and stretched. The Council won't expect this. They think we're just another young species seeking membership. We're more than that, Laura said, gathering her things. We're bringing something unique to the galaxy. The accumulated military wisdom of our entire species. Kevin nodded, looking out his window at the rising sun. Somewhere out there, the Vorkath were planning their next conquest. But soon, very soon, they would face something they'd never encountered before. Human military tactics refined over thousands of years of warfare. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Kevin and Laura refined their presentation, working closely with military historians and strategists. They created detailed simulations showing how ancient Earth tactics could be adapted for space warfare. Finally, 1 week before their scheduled council appearance, they received an urgent message. The council had moved up their presentation date. The Vorkath threat was growing, and Earth's application for membership would be heard immediately. As Kevin packed his materials for the journey to Centauri Prime, he paused to look at one last historical image, a painting of ancient Greek warriors standing against a massive Persian army. History repeats itself, he murmured, even among the stars. Laura appeared at his door, ready to go. The shuttle leaves in an hour, ready to teach the galaxy about the art of war. Kevin nodded, gathering his things. They had worked hard to prepare for this moment. Now it was time to show the Council of Systems why humanity's long history of warfare wasn't a weakness. It was exactly what the galaxy needed. As they headed for the spaceport, both knew they were about to change the course of galactic history. Humanity was about to bring something unique to the stars, not just the ability to fight, but the accumulated wisdom of thousands of years of learning how to win. The morning sun glinted off their shuttle as it rose through Earth's atmosphere, carrying with it humanity's greatest military minds and their knowledge, headed for a rendezvous with destiny among the stars. The council chambers on Centauri Prime took Kevin's breath away. The vast circular room stretched up hundreds of meters, its transparent dome showing the star-filled sky above. Representatives from over 200 species filled the tiered seating, their quiet conversations creating a soft hum throughout the chamber. Ambassador Catherine Walsh stood at the center podium, her silver diplomatic uniform gleaming under the chamber's lights. Kevin and Laura sat behind her with the rest of Earth's delegation, watching as she began humanity's formal application for council membership. Honorable representatives, Catherine's voice carried clearly through the chamber. Earth comes before you today, not just as applicants, but as partners in maintaining galactic peace and prosperity. The council members listened politely, but Kevin could see the skepticism on many alien faces. To them, Earth was just another young civilization, barely 2 centuries into space travel. A tall, blue-skinned Centaurian raised his hand. Ambassador Walsh, your species has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. What can Earth possibly offer to the Council? Before Catherine could respond, the chamber doors burst open. A group of Vorkath warriors strode in, their black armor gleaming. Their leader, General Kraz, took a position at the opposition podium. The humans are primitives, Kraz's voice boomed through the chamber. Their history is stained with endless warfare. They will bring nothing but violence to the Council. Kevin felt Laura tense beside him. This was the moment they had prepared for. He stood up, and Catherine nodded, letting him take the podium. General Kraz is right about one thing, Kevin began, his voice steady. We do have a long history of warfare. He activated his holographic display, and the chamber darkened. But that history has taught us something invaluable. Above the chamber floor, a massive hologram appeared. It showed ancient Roman legions in formation, then shifted to show modern space fleet formations. The similarities were striking. While other species evolved past conflict, we learned from it. Every battle taught us something new. Every war helped us understand strategy better. Kevin moved through his presentation, showing how human military tactics had evolved over thousands of years. The council chamber grew silent as Kevin demonstrated how ancient flanking maneuvers could be adapted for space combat. He showed how submarine warfare tactics from Earth's Second World War could be modified for stellar combat. "Look at this," he said, pulling up footage of recent Vorkath attacks. "The same strategy every time. No adaptation. No evolution." He split the display, showing multiple historical battles from Earth. "Now look at how humans adapted their tactics through history." Laura stepped forward, adding her expertise. "We've analyzed every major battle in human history. The principles of strategy remain constant, but the application evolves. Space warfare isn't just about technology. It's about understanding how to use it effectively." A reptilian council member leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we need to learn warfare from humans?" "We're suggesting," Catherine stepped back in, "that humanity's unique experience with conflict has given us insights that could benefit the entire council, especially now." The chamber erupted in discussions. Kevin could see many council members talking animatedly among themselves. Even some who had looked skeptical before were now showing interest. General Kraz slammed his fist on his podium. "This is absurd. These humans speak of ancient ground battles. What do those have to do with modern space warfare?" Kevin smiled. "General, would you be willing to participate in a demonstration?" At Kraz's nod, Kevin activated a tactical simulator. A holographic battlefield appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a space combat scenario. "This is based on the Battle of Salamis," Kevin explained, "an ancient naval battle where a smaller Greek fleet defeated a much larger Persian force." He set up the simulation with Kraz commanding the larger fleet. What followed was a masterclass in tactical warfare. Using principles from the ancient battle, Kevin's smaller fleet maneuvered Kraz's forces into a disadvantageous position. Within minutes, the simulation showed the larger fleet in complete disarray. "Impossible," Kraz growled. "You cheated." "No, General," Laura spoke up. "We just applied principles that humans learned over thousands of years of warfare. Principles that work just as well in space as they did on Earth's oceans." The council chamber had grown completely silent. Kevin could see the impact their presentation had made. These beings had never seen warfare analyzed and adapted like this. Ambassador Walsh took the podium one final time. "Honorable Council, Earth doesn't come before you just seeking membership. We come offering our experience, our understanding, and our commitment to defending galactic peace." The Council's chief administrator, a wise-looking Aldebaranian, stood up. "This is most impressive, Ambassador. But tell me, if we accept Earth into the Council, how can we be sure you won't use these abilities against us?" Catherine's response was measured. "Because the greatest lesson humanity learned from our long history of warfare is the importance of peace. We don't study war because we love it. We study it because understanding it is the best way to prevent it." The chamber filled with murmurs of approval. Kevin could see many council members nodding in agreement. Even some of the more skeptical representatives seemed impressed. As the formal session ended, Kevin and Laura were surrounded by council members eager to learn more. Species that had initially dismissed Earth as primitive were now asking detailed questions about human military history. "I think we did it," Laura whispered to Kevin as they answered questions about ancient Earth tactics. Kevin nodded, but before he could respond, an urgent message appeared on his datapad. The Vorkath had just attacked another council world. Looking around the chamber at the now interested council members, Kevin realized their presentation had come just in time. The galaxy was about to learn why human military history was so valuable, not just in theory, but in practice. The real test was about to begin, and humanity's ancient wisdom of warfare would face its greatest challenge among the stars. The emergency alarms blared through the council chambers 3 days after Earth's presentation. Kevin and Laura rushed from their temporary quarters to the main hall, where chaos had erupted. Holographic displays showed 3 council worlds under simultaneous attack by Vorkath forces. "This is unprecedented," a Centaurian councilor said, his blue skin pale with worry. They'd never attacked multiple systems at once. The main display showed the devastation. Vorkath warships moved in their typical arrow formation, overwhelming planetary defenses with brute force. The Council's defensive fleets fought back using their standard tactics, but they were failing. Kevin watched the battles unfold, his mind racing. "Look at their formation," he said to Laura. "It's exactly like the Persian fleet at Artemisium." Laura nodded, quickly pulling up historical data on her pad. "The Council ships are making the same mistakes too. They're trying to match force with force." Ambassador Walsh joined them, her face grim. "The Council's military committee is meeting in 10 minutes. They want you both there." The committee chamber was smaller but no less grand than the main hall. Military leaders from various species sat around a circular table, their faces showing varying degrees of concern and frustration. Admiral Zena, a tall Andorian with silvery skin, spoke first. "Our traditional defensive strategies are failing. The Vorkath have adapted to our standard responses." Kevin stepped forward. "May I?" He gestured to the tactical display. When Admiral Zena nodded, he pulled up the battle data from all 3 attacked systems. "The Vorkath think they're being clever by attacking multiple targets," Kevin explained, "but they're actually making a classic military mistake. They've divided their forces." Laura added data from Earth's historical archives. "It's similar to Napoleon's campaign in 1813. By dividing his forces to fight on multiple fronts, he weakened his overall position." "These are space battles," a reptilian commander objected. "How can ancient ground warfare possibly apply?" Kevin brought up a split screen showing the current Vorkath formations alongside ancient battle maps. "The principles remain the same. Look at how they're positioning their forces. They're exposed, vulnerable. They're counting on you to respond exactly as you always have." "What do you suggest?" Admiral Zena asked. Laura displayed a new tactical overlay. "Instead of meeting them head-on at each location, we concentrate our forces, hit them hard at their weakest point, then move to the next target before they can regroup. That would mean temporarily abandoning 2 systems to save one." Someone protested. "Yes," Kevin agreed, "but better to save all 3 systems in sequence than lose them all at once. This is basic military strategy. Defeat your enemy in detail." The debate raged for hours. Some council members resisted the idea of using human tactics, while others saw it as their only option. The discussion was interrupted by news that one of the invaded systems had fallen to the Vorkath. "We're running out of time," Ambassador Walsh said quietly. Finally, Admiral Zena stood up. "We've tried our way. It's failing. I say we try the human way." Kevin and Laura spent the next several hours working with council tacticians, teaching them basic principles of human military strategy. They showed them how to adapt ancient tactics for space warfare, how to read enemy movements, and how to predict their responses. "The key is adaptability," Kevin explained to a group of fleet commanders. "The Vorkath have never faced an enemy that changes tactics. They won't know how to respond." Laura worked with the communication teams, showing them how to coordinate fleet movements using lessons learned from Earth's naval warfare history. "Speed and surprise," she emphasized. "Hit them where they don't expect it." As they prepared their plans, more reports arrived. The Vorkath were pushing deeper into Council space, confident in their victory. They had never lost a major battle, and they didn't expect this time to be any different. "They're getting overconfident," Kevin observed, "just like every other military power that thought it was invincible." Admiral Zena gathered her fleet commanders for final instructions. The plan was risky. They would pull back their forces from 2 systems, making it appear they were retreating. Then they would concentrate everything on the 3rd system, using modified tactics from Earth's historical battles. "This goes against everything we've learned about space warfare," one commander said nervously. "Exactly," Laura replied. "That's why it will work. The Vorkath won't expect it." As the Council fleets moved into position, Kevin and Laura watched from the command center. The tactical displays showed the Vorkath forces pressing their advantage, unaware they were moving into a trap. "What if we're wrong?" Laura whispered to Kevin. What if ancient Earth tactics don't work in space? Kevin watched the fleet movements, remembering all the historical battles they had studied. War doesn't change, he said quietly. The weapons change, the battlefield changes, but the basic principles remain the same. We've had thousands of years to perfect them. The first reports from the battlefield began arriving. The Vorkath, facing unexpected tactics for the first time, were struggling to adapt. Their rigid command structure, used to giving the same orders for every battle, couldn't handle the rapidly changing situation. "It's working," Admiral Zena said, her voice filled with surprise and hope. "They don't know how to respond to these new tactics." Kevin and Laura exchanged tired but satisfied looks. They had done it. They had convinced the Council to try something new, and it was working. But they knew this was just the beginning. As the battle reports continued to come in, Kevin thought about all the military historians and strategists throughout Earth's history. Their collected wisdom, learned through countless conflicts, was now helping save worlds among the stars. The crisis wasn't over, far from it. But for the first time, the Council had hope. They had something the Vorkath had never faced before: the accumulated military wisdom of humanity, refined through thousands of years of warfare and adaptation. The stars above Centauri Prime twinkled as the battle raged on. Somewhere out there, Council ships were using tactics first developed by ancient Earth armies, proving that the art of war truly was universal. Admiral Susan Martinez stood on the bridge of her flagship, overseeing the largest training operation in Council history. Below her, on the massive training deck, alien crews learned human combat tactics under the guidance of Earth's military advisors. "They're learning quickly," Kevin said, joining her at the observation window. The past month had been intense, with thousands of alien officers studying Earth's military history and tactics. "They have to," Susan replied. "The Vorkath won't give us much time." She pointed to a group practicing space combat maneuvers. "Look at how the Centaurians have adapted to the submarine warfare tactics." The training deck was divided into sections, each focusing on different aspects of human military strategy. In one area, crews learned about flanking maneuvers. In another, they studied the art of tactical retreat and counterattack. Laura approached them with her datapad showing the latest reports. "The Vorkath have regrouped after their last defeat. They're massing their forces at the edge of Council space." "Good," Susan said. "That means they're worried. They've never had to change their tactics before." The training continued day and night. Kevin and Laura worked with Council strategists, adapting Earth's military history for space warfare. They transformed ancient naval tactics into three-dimensional combat maneuvers. World War I submarine strategies became the basis for new stealth attacks. "The key is unpredictability," Kevin explained to a group of alien commanders. "The Vorkath expect you to fight the same way every time. We're going to show them something new in every battle." The Council fleet began to change. Ships that once moved in rigid formations now flowed like water, adapting to the situation. Crews that had relied on brute force learned the art of tactical warfare. "It's like teaching an old dog new tricks," Laura said one evening, watching a simulation of their new tactics. "These species have been fighting the same way for centuries." Their first real test came sooner than expected. A Vorkath battle group attacked a Council mining colony near the Rigel system. Instead of meeting them head-on, the defending fleet used modified World War I Wolfpack tactics, just like the Battle of the Atlantic, Kevin said, watching the battle unfold. But in 3 dimensions. The Vorkath ships, expecting the usual direct confrontation, found themselves surrounded by smaller groups of Council vessels. The defenders struck from multiple angles, then disappeared into the void, only to appear again somewhere else. "They're confused," Susan observed, watching the enemy formations break apart. "They don't know how to handle an enemy that won't stand and fight." The battle ended in victory for the Council forces. It wasn't a major engagement, but it proved their new tactics worked. More importantly, it showed the Vorkath could be beaten. "This is just the beginning," Laura told the celebrating crews afterward. Now we implement Phase 2. Phase 2 involved more complex strategies. Kevin worked with fleet commanders to adapt famous Earth battles for space combat. The Battle of Trafalgar became a template for breaking enemy lines. Ancient Roman tactics were modified for space infantry combat during shipboarding actions. Susan spent long hours in the simulator, practicing these new techniques with her crews. The Vorkath think they understand space combat, she told her officers. We're going to show them they don't even understand the basics. The changes weren't just tactical. The entire Council military structure began to evolve. They adopted Earth's concept of mission-type tactics, giving lower-level commanders more freedom to make decisions in battle. It's not just about copying our moves, Kevin explained to the Council Military Committee. It's about understanding why these tactics work and when to use them. Laura developed a new combat database, combining Council technology with human military principles. Every commander needs to understand these basics, she said, from Sun Tzu to modern space warfare. The Vorkath noticed the changes. Their attacks became less frequent, more cautious. For the first time, they faced an enemy that didn't behave predictably. They're studying us now, Susan said during a strategy meeting, trying to figure out what we'll do next. But that's the beauty of human military history. We have thousands of years of different tactics to choose from. The training continued as reports came in of more Vorkath fleet movements. Everyone knew a major battle was coming. The enemy wouldn't stay passive for long. Kevin spent his evenings studying Vorkath battle recordings, looking for weaknesses. They still think like a superior force, he told Laura. They haven't learned the lesson that technology alone doesn't win wars. In the ship hangars, maintenance crews modified Council vessels based on human designs. They added features inspired by Earth's naval history. Better point defense systems, improved damage control, and more flexible command centers. It's not about having the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons, Susan explained to her crews. It's about using what you have effectively. The changes were paying off. Small skirmishes along the border consistently ended in Council victories. The Vorkath's once unstoppable advance had been checked. One evening, as Kevin watched the training exercises, Laura joined him with fresh data. Look at this, she said, showing him combat statistics. Our losses are down 80% since implementing human tactics. And the Vorkath? Kevin asked. They're taking heavier losses than ever before. They still fight the same way, even though it's not working anymore. Admiral Martinez called a final briefing. Intelligence suggested the Vorkath were preparing for a major offensive. The real test of human military tactics was about to begin. Remember, she told her commanders, we're not just fighting with weapons. We're fighting with the accumulated wisdom of humanity's entire military history. That's our real advantage. As the Council fleet prepared for the coming battle, Kevin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vorkath were still confident in their superior technology and numbers. They had no idea they were about to face thousands of years of human military evolution. The art of war was about to be demonstrated on a galactic scale. The Rigel system blazed with weapons fire as the final battle began. The Vorkath had committed their entire main fleet, over 300 capital ships supported by thousands of smaller vessels. They came in their traditional arrow formation, expecting another straightforward battle. Admiral Susan Martinez watched from her command center as the enemy fleet approached. Her own forces appeared to be in disarray, scattered across the system in seemingly random patterns. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. The Vorkath are advancing exactly as predicted. Kevin and Laura stood behind Susan, watching the massive holographic display. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Everything they had taught the Council forces would now be put to the ultimate test. Begin Phase 1, Susan ordered. The scattered Council ships suddenly moved with purpose. Smaller groups united into wolf packs, just as German U-boats had done centuries ago. They struck at the edges of the Vorkath formation, then vanished into the void. They're responding exactly like we hoped, Laura said, studying the enemy movements. They're breaking formation to chase our raiders. The Vorkath fleet began to spread out, trying to protect their flanks. Their rigid command structure, used to giving the same orders in every battle, struggled to adapt to these hit-and-run attacks. Now for Phase 2, Susan announced. Just like Kane. The Council's main battle fleet, hidden behind a nearby moon, suddenly emerged. But instead of charging straight in, they executed a complex maneuver based on one of history's most famous battles. The center appeared to retreat while the wings pushed forward. The double envelopment, Kevin said quietly. Hannibal would be proud. The Vorkath commander, seeing the Council center falling back, did exactly what Hannibal's Roman opponents had done over 2,000 years ago. He committed his reserves to the center, trying to break through what he thought was a weakening line. They're in the trap, Susan smiled. Execute Phase 3. Hidden Council ships suddenly appeared from hyperspace behind the Vorkath fleet. The enemy was now surrounded on 3 sides, just as the Romans had been at Cannae. History was repeating itself among the stars. The battle became chaotic as the Vorkath tried to break free. But every time they found what looked like an escape route, they encountered another human tactic. Council ships used modified versions of ancient Greek phalanx formations, medieval cavalry charges, and modern submarine warfare tactics. Look at their command ships, Laura pointed to the display. They're giving contradictory orders. Their fleet is losing cohesion. The Vorkath's rigid hierarchy was their weakness. Lower-ranking commanders, trained to follow orders exactly, didn't know how to handle situations their superiors hadn't planned for. In contrast, the Council forces used mission-type tactics, allowing individual commanders to adapt to the situation. Begin the final phase, Susan ordered. Nelson's touch. The Council fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting specific enemy formations. It was a space version of Nelson's strategy at Trafalgar, breaking the enemy line at multiple points. The Vorkath fleet, already confused by the unfamiliar tactics, began to fall apart. Their flagship is attempting to retreat, the tactical officer reported. Not this time, Susan said firmly. She ordered a special task force to cut off the flagship's escape route. This group used tactics from the ancient Battle of Salamis, using the local stellar geography to trap their prey. The Vorkath flagship, cornered and alone, fought desperately. But it faced crews who had learned from thousands of years of human naval warfare. The outcome was inevitable. Vorkath flagship is signaling surrender, the communications officer announced. The battle chamber erupted in cheers. Kevin and Laura watched as the remaining Vorkath ships either surrendered or fled. The greatest space battle in Council history had ended in victory, one with tactics first developed by humans, fighting on Earth's lands and seas. In the days that followed, the Council chambers were filled with celebration and ceremony. The Vorkath Empire, its military broken and its confidence shattered, sued for peace. Admiral Martinez stood before the Council to deliver her report. This victory wasn't won by superior technology or numbers, she explained. It was won by understanding the art of war, an art that humans have studied and perfected for thousands of years. The Council's chief administrator rose to speak. Humanity has proven itself not just worthy of Council membership, but essential to our future. Their understanding of warfare, learned through centuries of conflict, may have saved galactic civilization. Kevin and Laura sat in the audience, watching as the Council formally voted to establish an interstellar military academy. Earth would lead the effort to teach the galaxy about military strategy and tactics. It's ironic, Laura said quietly. Our history of warfare, which some saw as a mark against us, turned out to be our greatest contribution to galactic peace. Kevin nodded. Because we learned the most important lesson of all. The best way to prevent war is to understand it completely. The ceremony concluded with the signing of new treaties. The galaxy was entering a new era, one where human military wisdom would help maintain peace among the stars. As Kevin looked out at the assembled representatives of hundreds of worlds, He thought about all the military commanders throughout Earth's history. From ancient generals to modern admirals, their collected wisdom had found a new purpose in the vastness of space. The art of war, perfected through thousands of years of human conflict, had become a force for peace in the galaxy. And somewhere out there, the stars twinkled over a safer universe, guarded by fleets that now understood the greatest lessons of human military history. The end of one story had become the beginning of another, as humanity's long experience with warfare finally served its highest purpose, preventing future conflicts among the stars.